Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva.
and this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
And Liz.
And we're back, and I don't know what's going to happen. Shit's rough, okay? We're doing the best we can. We love you guys
Yeah,
so
we didn't mean to
much.
take such a long break, but then like thing after thing just kept getting in the way of recording.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of wild how fucking difficult it's been lately.
yeah.
But we're going to do what we can. We love you guys. We haven't forgot about you. We're not quitting the podcast. We just have to, there have been a lot of big life changes, and we just have to navigate them and find time, which we will. Anyway, let's just get past that. How's everybody been? I hope everybody's been good. You good, Diva?
I am, yeah. I'm still tired
Mm-hmm.
and it's just tired in the summer,
Yep.
new season.
Yep.
Now it's like 100 degrees and I'm tired, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, same. We quit our travel baseball team because our coach was a dick. I just wanted to use my platform to say
Hmm.
that. I don't think
That's
he'll
good.
ever hear it,
Yeah.
but he was the
Just in case.
worst. Yeah, he was the worst. So we're trying out for other teams and forming our own team and just having a good time, not having to worry about being on that team anymore. But
Yeah.
that was a big part of what was taking up a lot of time was like forming this new team and figuring out when to quit the old team. Yeah. So pretty cool. That's it, guys. I don't know, nothing else exciting. We're moms. That's how we roll.
Mom life, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, if anybody doesn't remember, which is totally fair, we are doing people murdered on vacation or murdered at like World Heritage sites. A lot of these
Hmm.
stories that I looked up are like so sparse with the information that
Yeah.
I actually like changed what I was doing like 3 times. So I could tell you a lot of the
You
stories
had
on this
time
list.
to
I know I
to
did, I
change it.
did. And I can tell you a lot of the stories on this list, but unfortunately the telling of the stories would take me about 4 minutes. So it's
Hmm.
been interesting trying to figure it out.
Yeah, some are light, but then there's some that are beefy. I picked one that was beefy and one that was like smaller.
The one that I
Um,
picked is mid. The one that I have
okay.
highlighted, I'm actually probably not going to do because there's just no information. It's a murder at the Grand Canyon. It's unsolved, and I just told you the story right there. Like there it is.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to pick a different one, but the
Okay.
one that I'm doing today is not highlighted, so but it's not one you did, so I know we're not gonna fuck up and double down.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, should we just do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's fucking do it. Okay. I am doing the murder, death, manslaughter, I don't know, of Alice Gruppioni. Now, I'm going to say her last name that way
Mm.
because you can't say that Italian of a name without putting a little Italian on it. And having a long line of Italian people in my family, I feel not like an asshole actually saying her name correctly. So her name is spelled Alice, but it's Alice. Alice Gruppioni
Mm,
is her name. And she was a
gotcha.
this takes place at the Venice Boardwalk in September
Oh.
2015. Now, if people don't know, the Venice Beach Boardwalk is a world famous tourist location located in Los Angeles, California, where we live. When I first moved to LA, I was like, we're gonna go to the Sunset Strip and the beach and the Venice Boardwalk. And I was like, oh, you're like now looking back, I'm like, oh, you're such a tourist. Like you had no idea what you were doing. Like you're just being stupid.
Venice
I
is a weird place.
Venice is such a trip. So I went there thinking it was going to be this like beautiful, fun, bright, like touristy. It's
Hmm.
fucking scary. Like I ended up carrying a knife at
Yeah.
night, like trying to not get like fucked up on the beach. Like because honestly,
Yeah.
like it's gnarly there, and there's like murders, there's robberies, like anybody seen like Lords of Dogtown or whatever, like it was a fucking gnarly ass area. It still kind of is.
Although it's weirdly also become like really gentrified and wealthy. And like I know that there's been a lot of fights in Venice recently about like basically the rich people who live there trying to kick homeless people off the
Yeah.
streets. And like that's what I think of when I think of Venice.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's like ivory towers. So there's people who live in like
Yeah.
multi-million dollar homes just surrounded by like gnarliness, homeless people, beach dwellers. Like
Yes.
people who live at the beach are kind of gnarly. People who are like spend a lot of time at the beach are kind of gnarly. There's a lot of van
Yeah.
lifers. And like I'm with those people. Like fuck the rich people. But all that to say is it's a very weird amalgamation, I guess. I don't know if that's the word of like different cultures and people all kind of shoved into one space. So in any case, it's a tourist trap. It's a big touristy area, but it's also just got a lot of like interesting characters. And there's a lot of like people who have been down there for 40 years, Harry Carey rolling around on his rollerblades, playing guitar out of like a really crazy sound box and like singing at you. It's a trip. Like you'll never see another place like it. Hopefully the rich people don't completely destroy it, but on the other hand, things like this happen and it's pretty fucked up. So anyway,
Yeah.
Venice Beach Boardwalk, which also like there is a boardwalk, but there's also just like a long strip of like it's like a street that everybody walks on. And it's like there's a row of vendors with like, tents, and then there's also on the other side there's a row of buildings. So it's like you park, you walk through the buildings onto this strip. On one side it's the buildings, on the other side it's the beach. So it's like this long kind of like big sidewalk, and cars can drive on that and sometimes they do, but mostly it's people walking. um, so anyway, Alice Gruppioni is a from a well-to-do Italian family. Her grandfather, her grandfather, her grandfather owned like an Italian soccer team at one point. They were just a very wealthy, rich family. She was just married, I think, like 3 days prior to
Wow.
when this happened, which was in September of 2015. So, oh no, no, sorry, August 2013. Sorry. The conviction and all this happened in September
Ah,
2015. So this is August 3rd,
okay.
2013 is when this
Okay.
takes place. So she was married, I think, like the last week of July in Italy. Now, she got married in her small hometown. And from what I read, a lot of what I read was like translated from Italian. So it was difficult to get exact, information. But her wedding was huge, like hundreds and hundreds of people, which I think is fairly normal for Italians, but also,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, big weddings are a thing, but also she was like beloved in her town. Everybody knew her. Again, her family was very well to do. I think they were very
Yeah.
involved in the local town, and everybody said she was just, wonderful and warm and caring and beautiful. So she gets married. She's 32 years old. She took her time, which, like, hell yeah, live your life, do your thing. And she
Yeah.
and her husband decide to go to America for their honeymoon, which, like, I think that's becoming less and less of a thing since this is like a burning shit pile, trash can, horrible place. But back in 2013, it was still like, fun and exciting to come to America. For
No,
like,
but Europeans still glamorize California, especially like, oh, like
yeah,
California, like a vacation. They don't know all the issues with it per se.
yeah, I guess we're one of the like last places that's like, considered not horrible. You guys are wrong. Don't come here. Uh Anyway, so she and her husband are enjoying their time in America and they go down to the boardwalk. This is like one of the very first days that they are in LA. They decide to do the tourist trap that is the boardwalk. So they are walking around. It's like straight up the middle of the fucking day. And they're walking on this area that I said like cars can drive on but typically don't, and they're surrounded by people, they're surrounded by vendors, and out of nowhere, this car comes racing up. So it comes there's like I said, there's like driveways to get onto here, but you're not really allowed to drive there. So this car goes around one of the bollards. Those are the big things in the streets to keep cars out, like the big poles.
Yeah.
He goes around those, probably driving somewhat into the sand, and drives onto this boardwalk, and he just starts like ramming people and ramming the tents and the vendors, and like smashes an ATM machine that goes flying. ATM
Oh
machine,
my
I said
God.
it. Oh my god, it's not an ATM machine, it's an ATM, or it's an AT machine. God damn it. So he hits this ATM and it goes fucking flying. It hits this woman in the back of the head, knocking her unconscious. And then he continues. He's like pushing forward, and ends up, ramming quite a few people, including Alice. Now, Alice and her husband Christian see this car coming and he tries to pull her out of the way. Now, he ends up getting hit. And like, I don't know if he blacks out, but he said at one point, like, he just didn't know what was happening. When he gets up off the
Yeah.
ground, he sees her, 300 feet away on the ground. This
Oh my
car
gosh.
hit Alice. She came onto the hood of the car. And then he drove 300 feet with her on the car and then stopped abruptly, launching her off of it.
Horrible.
Yes. Now, Christian,
Ugh.
her very new husband, runs over to her and holds her hand as she breathes her last breath. He's like
Oh
cradling her
my
head.
God. That's
People
so
are
horrible.
screaming. Yeah, fucking crazy. Now, the man in the car flees the scene. I believe he flees the scene with the car, parks the car around the corner, and leaves on foot. Police are called to the scene. 17 people are injured, some of them very seriously injured, and Alice
Yeah.
is taken to the hospital where she is pronounced dead. Now, luckily, she was the only person to die, but there are people who to this day are still walking with like canes, who still
Yeah.
have,
Serious injuries.
yeah, and like chronic pain now because of this.
Yeah.
So it's a very serious
We're
thing.
all very like close, one stupid thing away from being disabled. Like it's really,
Yeah,
really
it's
close.
very scary, and hopefully, wake up call to people to not be prejudiced against people who are, have mobility issues or pain issues, because it could be any one of us at any point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, so police are looking for the man, obviously, and they have CCTV around there. They do. So they see the Dodge, they find the car, and eventually they're going to trace it back to the owner. But before they do, 39-year-old Nathan Campbell walks into the Santa Monica police station and turns himself in. He says, I'm the man who was in the car. I did it, yada, yada. So they arrest him. And from here, basically, they just go to trial. And they go to trial for murder. And Nathan, so let's talk about Nathan for a minute here. So, like I
Okay.
said, he's 39 years old at the time that this happens, and he is originally from Colorado. Now, from Colorado, he spent some time in Florida, then he moved back to Colorado, and then he came down to California, where he'd only been for a week or two. And somehow, this man, who has a laundry list of petty crimes under his belt, knew exactly where to go to get into some trouble in Los Angeles. So this man, he, was arrested, I think, for like theft. He had issues with drugs. He was one of those guys who was like in and out of trying to get his life together. So at one point, he had become like a patient at a recovery center, and he then started running the recovery center, which is actually a thing that these recovery centers do. When they have somebody who like, oh, hello, kitty, who becomes, they become sober, they start to get their shit together. They will give them a job working in that recovery center, because it's a great way for these people to like connect with people who haven't quite got there yet, right? So there will be ex-addicts working in these recovery centers helping other people recover, right? If that makes sense. And I know
Yeah.
they always say like for life, like I'm an addict, but like recovered, people who are no longer using. So
Right.
he was in this position working in a place in like a recovery center, but he was fired for using drugs and alcohol. So he had relapse, which is
Okay.
also definitely
Yeah.
a thing that happens. And
Yeah, very much.
at this point was living, as far as we know, in his car. And he had bought that car in Colorado. He'd scraped together enough money to buy this like used Dodge, coupe. It was, or like a sedan. I mean, it didn't even have like a decent place to sleep. But he comes down to California and he's sleeping in his car. Now, as to why he did what he did, the prosecution states that they spoke to a homeless man who said, we were trying to buy some meth from a drug dealer in Venice Beach. We gave him $35 and he didn't come back with any meth. So Nathan
Mm.
told me, point him out, I'll run him over with my car. And this man pointed out the drug dealer, and Nathan drove his car onto the boardwalk to run him over. Now, Nathan's defense attorneys say, oh, no, 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 that's not what happened. He accidentally drove onto the boardwalk, and then when he was on there, he tried to reverse out, but accidentally accelerated. Now, the problem with that is that there's closed circuit TV showing him like aiming for stuff. Like
Yeah.
hitting vendors, hitting this ATM, hitting people. Like,
It's more than just the drug dealer. He's going for anyone and everything.
yeah, and the thing is, he's not just driving in a straight line. You know, like you've definitely seen like
Yeah.
sometimes when elderly people accident and it happens and it's horrible and they shouldn't be driving in the first place if this is the type of thing that happens. Um, but you know, where they accidentally step on the gas and like run somebody over. This was not that. This was clearly not that. And it was like very clearly not that. Like there's not even like a question. So his lawyers are arguing it was a mistake, and that's kind of the stance that he takes. Like, if I could take it back, I didn't mean to. No, 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 no. You watch the video, it's very fucking clear that this guy is just a piece of shit who doesn't care who he hurts because he's
Yeah.
trying to run this drug dealer over. And it's like, dude, if the drug dealer took your money, go fight him. You don't have to, you know. So it's just a complete disregard for like anybody around there. It's a complete overreaction. It's just something that like somebody on drugs with who's a piece of shit would do. And
Right.
you know, you can be on drugs and not be a piece of shit. There's like a combination here.
Very
So
much.
they go to trial and he is convicted of second-degree murder. He also got 26 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and all told, he ends up getting 42 years to life in prison. Now, he was already, 39 at this point. So if he doesn't die in prison, he's going to be very, very old by the time he gets out. My assumption is he's not going to make it out, and that's fine with me. But yeah, that's the story.
Wow.
Alice's family, her husband, I looked him up because I always do that, and he seems to be,
Mm-hmm.
doing okay. I think he's an architect, a photographer. He travels. I can't find any mention of her anywhere, but I think that's fair. It's been over 10 years, and it's probably not something that he's trying to like remember,
Yeah. But
Um,
that's, yeah, it's really horrible and tragic and like
yeah,
fucked up for someone to die in such a random,
horrible way.
meaningless way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her funeral was attended, I think, by more people than her wedding, which is fucked up.
Wow.
But yeah, her body was flown back to her hometown, and yeah, pretty fucked up. Like,
Where were they from in Italy?
I can't remember. I read it, and then it's not. The problem with these articles being super old is that the ones you can still find are basically like the same fucking article. I found
Yeah.
one in Italian that said, let me try to find it. I found one that I translated from Italian that said where it was. A small town. Do they say Bologna or do they say Bologna? They say Bologna, right?
Bologna.
Bologna.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not Bologna. So a small town south of Bologna.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So that's the thing, is it was like a very small town, which is also why she was so well known.
Right. Right.
So it was definitely like a loss for the town because everybody there is like family and they know each other. So pretty fucked up.
Gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Tell me about yours.
All right. All right. Well, mine is very, very well known.
Oh,
And it is going to take place in some National Heritage or World Heritage Site national parks
okay.
and adjacent to and in them. This is the case of Bryer, Schmegelsky, and Cam McLeod. You remember this? McLeod.
McLeod?
McLeod?
McLeod.
McLeod.
I
I
don't
never know how
know.
to say that name.
Yeah,
McLeod.
it's McLeod. I mean, I almost just called Bologna Bologna, but that was more of a joke. But
Okay.
McLeod. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to begin with the murders of Chynna Deese and Lucas Fowler. You remember this? This is like a second ago.
You'll have to just talk about it and I'll be like, yes, I remember.
I
But as of right now, I don't know. But like,
yeah. Okay. You will. I'm surprised you don't know on names alone because this is a huge
oh,
case. Um. Okay.
I'm
So
embarrassed.
you'll have a moment of recognition here in a second.
Okay.
Um, so Chynna Deese was from New York City. Her boyfriend Lucas Fowler was Australian, and he was in California. Or sorry, Canada. I wrote CA. It's been so long since I wrote this, I forgot what that means. He was in Canada on a work visa.
Okay.
And they were kind of traveling, and I think he was probably working like here and there, but they were pretty much just like being itinerant
Okay.
van life type people, literally van life because they had a van.
Yeah. Don't hate it.
And just traveling and just camping, being outdoorsy, doing things I would hate. Um, and they had been in Canada. He had been there since April, and Chynna had gotten there later in July. So they're kind of living, they've been long distance, and they're kind of living their, like, travel, van life,
Mm-hmm.
love affair fantasy.
Okay.
They're having a great time.
Right.
Um, so this is going to be an abrupt transition, um, as I always do. But on July 15th, 2019, uh, Chynna and Lucas's bodies were discovered just off the highway near Liard Hot Springs in BC. And this is right on top of the Nahanni and Northern Rocky Mountains Preserves, which are both World Heritage Sites. There you go.
There you go. Okay.
Um, so we're in beautiful BC nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Chynna and Lucas's bodies were both lying face down in a ditch, but they had been shot multiple times, including like while they were lying face down.
Oof. That's
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah, it gives you a little sense here. When they had been found, they had been only dead for hours, so it was pretty hot,
Oh.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Gunshot wounds. Yeah, I already said that, but they were found to have entered them from the back as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
fucked up. Footage from a gas station 2 days prior that was quickly found, and it is actually really heartbreaking footage. It shows the two hugging, like acting like when they don't know, they're not thinking about cameras, right? But
Yeah.
or anything. It just happens to capture these super loving moments where like she steps up on the gas station like kind of platform and then like jumps into his arms, and they're just like genuinely like loving each other.
Mm.
Um, really sad. Um, Witnesses reported the last sightings of Chynna and Lucas,
Mm-hmm.
which was seeing them standing on the side of the road with their van, which had
Oh.
broken down.
Uh-oh.
So presumably their killers, see them like this, and instead of being a
They
helper,
take
they kill them.
advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. This van, which they were traveling with, was found nearby. So it was kind of like poorly hidden.
Okay.
So this happens first, technically, but I don't think it's huge news. But then it becomes even huger news when it's sort of. Oh, I hear my baby waking up.
Oh.
There he is. It's all good. When it's combined with the news of two missing teens from Vancouver Island, 18-year-old Bryer Schmegelsky and 19-year-old Cam McLeod.
McLeod.
McLeod?
It's
Doesn't
McLeod.
look like
It's
McLeod.
McLeod, I
Are you
promise
sure?
you. Yes.
Cam McLeod. Okay. Anyway, 19-year-old Cam McLeod. We're gonna say that. I feel like they don't say it that way. Do
It's
they say it that way?
McLeod. I think
Okay.
they do.
All right. All right. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna comment and be like, "Diva's right. It was." Yeah. Okay.
Well, let
Um.
them tell me I'm dumb. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Diva's, or they could be like Diva's dumb. It's McLeod. Okay. Um. Anyway, so these two teens go missing. Their truck was found burnt nearby the scene of Chynna and Lucas's murders. And so it's assumed at first that these are also victims of like some terrifying Canadian serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And these two, let me tell you a little bit about Bryer and Cam here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna roast them
Okay.
a little bit. Spoiler alert, they're not the victims. Um,
Oh,
I cannot believe you're not like clicking with this.
I don't remember
This is
this.
huge.
I'm the
This is the
worst.
hugest news.
I
Okay.
don't know what's wrong
All
with
right.
me.
Okay. Okay. So Cam and Bryer were lifelong besties.
Okay.
They worked at Walmart together in a small-ish town called Port Alberni in BC, which is kind of in the Vancouver area.
Okay.
Cindy sent me a file to tell me how it's pronounced McLeod.
I did.
Okay.
It
There's a
is.
whole history behind why it's McLeod. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Cam McLeod. Thank you. All right. Stupid Gaelic. All right. So some initial reports when these guys are missing teens
Mhm.
say, "Oh, these are just two normal kids. Their parents say they're really good, upstanding gentlemen, all this stuff." So
Mhm.
you'll still see some news stories like that from that like era. But here's some more about them and how they're super cool. They loved Nazi stuff.
Oh, nice. Always
They're
a good
really into
sign.
Nazis. They're really into Trump and Putin. Generally, they're into far right far right ideology, like Nazi level far.
Okay.
And they also are into survivalist bullshit. This is all like the same person. It's all tracks.
Ew. Yeah.
And they like to go into the woods and quote unquote play war, which is very embarrassing to me.
Especially at that
I just
age. Like, what are you
picture them on
doing?
like on their stomachs going like pew 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 pew, you know.
Yeah. Oh my God. Now I'm looking
Um,
at them. These guys are fucking dweebs.
they're embarrassing, right?
Jesus Christ.
Um, they're also both into video games, shocker.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's photos of Bryer in military gear with guns.
Mm.
Someone who met him on Steam, which is an online video game platform, said that Bryer sent him photos of himself in Nazi regalia, which, like, my eyes are rolling so far into the
Ugh.
back of my skull.
Fucking loser.
Um, and there's not a huge amount to indicate like any issues that these two had. Bryer had struggled with his parents being divorced, but like okay, like so would do like 60% of people his age.
Yeah.
It's not that unusual. Like not they didn't have any major childhood trauma that I could see. They were pretty much just like privileged white kids.
Yeah.
Um, incel baby bitches, as we'll talk about. So on July 19th, a Dodge pickup identified as belonging to Cam McLeod
Thank you.
is is found burning next to some camping gear. So this is the same burn car. I wrote this all out of order. Anyway, we're here at the burning car now,
Okay.
July 19th. It's technically found after
Okay.
um, the bodies of Chynna and Lucas by a few days, 4 days after. Okay. So here we're at July 19th. As the police constable was heading out from the scene of the burning car, someone literally came by and just was like, "Oh, I happened upon this cop," and was like, "Hey, I found a body burning in a gravel pit like 2.5 kilometers away from here." And the cop was like, "Oh, I should also check that out."
Whoa.
So this is happening like boom, 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 right after the car. So they go there and the authorities find a body of an older man with a beard. He's later identified as Leonard Dyke.
Okay.
He was a beloved professor at the University of British Columbia, or UBC,
Mm-hmm.
where he taught botany. He was a botanist.
Okay.
And he was ID'd after his wife saw a sketch that was released of the unknown body and a description of
Oh,
the car. And she knew her husband went out on road trips and slept in the car often.
right.
And he had just recently gone out on a trip to this area to watch the grizzly bears, which is really cute.
Oh. And he was
Grizzly
murdered.
watching. Yep. Um, he's Leonard's body was burnt and also covered in blood. It was discovered that he had been shot as well and stabbed, or like in some way.
Jesus.
Um, Around the body, the officers found McDonald's fries.
What?
With and the container, so kind of in a way that they felt was sort of staged. This was like often noted in a lot of reports for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know what to make of that or
Fucking
what comes of
weird,
that, but
really.
there you go.
Yeah.
His shoes were muddy, so he had been walking around that area. He wasn't like dumped. He had been at some point there alive.
Ugh.
His ID was missing, and in addition to the fries, they found random trash around the body, like a beer can. I think there was like a Monster Energy drink or Red Bull or something.
Okay.
Cigarette butts and plastic flex ties. So there's trash strewn about. And shortly after this discovery, police get word that a nearby outhouse is covered in blood, and they're like, okay, clearly there's a killer trying to like clean up in here poorly.
Yeah.
Then they find even more suspicious things along the highway, Highway 37, including a burning trash can. At a different scene, then they find a random knife. Then they find Cam McLeod's Walmart work ID, and they're like,
Okay.
yeah. It's very sloppy trail of
Yeah.
garbage, killer garbage.
Yeah. Including an ID. Like, it was me.
Meanwhile, they keep researching more about Cam and Bryer. They go to their families back in Port Alberni, who say that they left together back on July 12th, and they told their families they were going to Whitehorse in the Yukon to find work, which, like, okay, you
Yeah.
live in BC, you're fine.
Yeah.
I'm unclear what that was about, but they said they heard from them last on the 17th. So that would have been like 2 days after the murders.
Okay.
The first murders. Cam's parents said that the boys are quote unquote introverted loners and gamers, which like, red flag
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
And Schmegelsky's grandma actually said that he was very upset about Cam's little sister rejecting him romantically,
Oh God.
which the incel vibes are
So
strong.
strong.
Um, Cam, by the way, had a full-on girlfriend who he just ghosted and like left on this road trip, and she was like, "What?"
Well, fuck
Like
her
texting him.
too.
Like,
If you're like dating this guy, you're probably shitty.
I mean, yeah, but also like that's still pretty like, cold. He just like bailed, and she was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Um, so as police investigate this pair, a clear picture of what's happening and the movements of these two comes into play. So they find out that shortly after leaving on July 12th, they bought a semi-automatic rifle and ammo in Nanaimo, which is just north of kind of Vancouver and Victoria.
Uh-huh.
Then they made their way up to the Liard Hot Springs area about 3 days later, putting them right in that area for Chynna and Lucas's murder.
Mm-hmm.
And just after the murders, they're able to track their location, uh, basically all through cameras. Canada has a lot of fucking cameras.
Yeah.
Like if you're driving somewhere in Canada, your car is getting filmed.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
For sure.
so that's the main way that they are following their locations.
Mm-hmm.
But they're able to find that they fled north to the Yukon within hours of the first murders. They bought a gas can. And, also footage from a lot of different like gas stations where they stopped.
Hmm.
There's footage of them in a gas station there only hours later in the Yukon, so they move fast because
Yeah.
that's far away.
Yeah, they're going.
Yeah. Buying a gas can, which they then used to burn the truck a couple days later, right? On July 17th, this is really scary. A man taking a nap in his truck pulled off the side of the road. And this man was towing a boat, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He had a terrifying close encounter with Cam and Bryer because they pulled over, and one of them, I forget which one of the boys got out. I'm calling them boys pejoratively too because they're little boys.
Right.
One of the little boys here got out of the truck with a long gun, like a assault rifle,
Yeah.
and began to stalk this man from the
Oh,
woods, which
fuck.
he's like, I see you.
Right.
And thankfully he woke up and drove away and saw them though.
Jesus Christ.
But he was like, they were clearly trying to kill me for my truck and my
Right.
boat.
Yeah.
So yeah, barely got away there. On July 21st, this is 2 days after Leonard Dyke's body and then the truck are found.
Mm-hmm.
Surveillance cameras catch stills of the boys in a hardware store in Saskatchewan. So they're like moving all over the fucking place.
Yeah, they are.
And their faces leaving the store those are the most like publicized screenshots,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what as later used in the wanted posters after they bought yet another gas can at this store.
Mm-hmm.
But like the cameras of the store literally gets like a perfect like HD shot of each of them leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So on July 21st, the police finally July 21st, the police release info about Cam and Bryer, but at first they just say that they're missing.
Okay.
And they're being stalked. They don't say anything about them being suspects.
Right.
That takes 2 more days. So cameras show, it took a while to get the timeline right of this because it's so complicated. Like the maps
Right.
of this are like very dramatic and complicated.
They're going far. They're going like around. Like they're like,
and I'm skipping a lot. Like there's a lot of like this date and this time they're at this gas station. Like I can't go through all of it. But they're tracked. So cameras show that they're driving a Toyota RAV4 that they stole from Leonard Dyke. So they killed him for his car.
Mm-hmm.
It has license plates on it that they stole from a different vehicle. And cameras show that they came back down to BC after that first visit to the Yukon, where they bought things like crowbars and electrical tape, presumably to do more murders.
Right.
July 22nd, the RAV4 that they stole from Leonard Dyke is found burned in Manitoba. So presumably when these things come out in the press the next day, they're burning it.
Right.
July 23rd, finally, the RCMP announces that Bryer and Cam are actually suspects in the murders of Chynna, Lucas, and also Leonard Dyke. They announced that the ammo the boys were known to have matches all the murders, and they announce all their like evidence basically of the cameras and the surveillance stuff. And this is crazy. The day prior to the police going public with the fact that they're suspects, the two were actually stopped in Manitoba for like a traffic thing, for speeding.
And they
so
just didn't get them.
They just didn't know that
Uh,
they were these other suspects. But if
yeah,
that news had been made public to Canadian law enforcement like a second earlier, they could have been caught.
right.
So a very publicized manhunt then begins for these two little incel baby boys.
Yeah. Fuck them.
Um, the police are hot on their tails as they traipse around BC. The police advise the public to not approach them, because they have tons of guns. They're dangerous, obviously.
Hmm.
The manhunt covers 5 provinces. 19 warrants are issued, and the whole search cost the RCMP $1.9 million.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this is huge news. I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People in all the various areas that they're known to frequent here are all scared. I guess all of Canada pretty much
Yeah.
is scared. What are they going to go next? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
These guys have like mass shooter like stamped all over them, right?
Ugh.
Um,
And they've got a bunch of
yeah.
fucking guns and shit. So it's like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, tons of them. Yeah. They tried to track them down by credit cards, but they didn't use them. After that initial purchase of guns, they apparently just used only cash.
Hmm.
And they turned off their phones after the 15th as well, after that last time, I think, talking to their family.
Yeah.
Breyer's dad gives a really weird and tearful statement around this time on July 25th, saying he knew that his son would die in like a cop shootout either today or tomorrow. He says basically he's on a
What?
mission to die in suicide by cop. He says, quote, he's on a suicide mission. He wants his pain to end. He's breaking down in tears. And I'm like,
His
okay,
pain?
Mr. Schmegelsky.
Mr.
Yeah,
Schmegelsky.
first of all, what pain? Second of all, like, okay, yeah, lots of teenagers are depressed, but I guess this your son has to die in suicide by cop. Like, okay,
What the that's a weird ass, like, I think we're starting to see, like,
it's very weird.
where
Yeah,
he gets this.
there's some stuff in this family for sure.
Big stuff going on.
At some point, Cam's dad releases a statement saying how Cam is like a caring, kind young man. He's just amazing, and we're
Say
like,
no.
okay,
I'm gonna say no, it's not
sure.
true.
Okay, coming to the end here. And this is abbreviated. This case is like vast.
Yeah.
Like I said, mostly with the following of their movements. On July 28th, the cops almost catch up with them after they were seen foraging for supplies in York Landing in Manitoba,
Okay.
yet another province.
Mm-hmm.
On July 29th, in Alberta, in a town called Sundance, the police find an array of the boys' belongings, including the ammo, the famous ammo that matches everything.
Mm-hmm.
And over the coming days, in around that area, there's more sightings and more items are found, like Cam's backpack and more of his like personal belongings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
finally, and this is like day to day, the news was coming out, and like I was following this of like they're here, we almost got them. Like the police was like they were like a second behind them. It's wild. Finally, August 7th, police find Cam and Bryer's bodies about 8 kilometers from where the stolen RAV4 was actually found burning
Oh,
a few weeks
shit.
earlier on July 22nd.
Wow.
They found their guns nearby, along with a camera stolen from Leonard Dyke that contained photos taken by the couple and videos that were taken a week or so prior.
Mm-hmm.
And there's videos, the videos and the photos as well have never been released, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And police say that there's essentially video confessions made pretty shortly before they took their own lives in
Mm-hmm.
some way. And as well, it's basically they describe it as a last will and testament, which I kind of eye roll. It's very dramatic. It's not like they
Yeah.
had property to will or anything,
Right.
but it's essentially a confession. And
Yeah.
there's been kind of, I'm really glad actually they didn't put out like even a transcript of these, because it's great to not let them get the press. They
Yeah,
clearly thought that these
don't give them a
videos were
voice.
going to get. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're doing this very performatively, so it's
Mm-hmm.
great that nothing was released. But apparently they don't go extensively into a motive, which I'm not shocked by. They express no remorse, and but they did admit guilt to all of the murders, and they expressed an intention that they were going to keep killing.
Huh.
If they had not been like,
Stopped
caught up
or...
with so
But
effectively, yeah.
They weren't really stopped. They killed themselves.
I mean, I think they were essentially backed into a corner where they knew they were gonna get caught,
Yeah.
like any second, any
Yeah.
day now, and so they chose to do this instead.
Yeah.
But like they kind of were like basically disappointed, like, oh man, we could have done more random murder.
Right. Maybe they should have been, I don't know, less obvious. Dickheads. Ugh.
Yeah, it was just a wild story, and I remember them coming out and saying these are the victims, these guys, and or missing
Yeah.
teens, and then that flip around was like crazy, and you're like, oh yeah, they are like incel video game basement. It's like,
Basement
oh
dwellers, like straight
shit.
the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Fucking
think of like the
losers.
Sandy Hook shooter, you know what I mean? Like that kind of
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um
Yeah.
and you're like, oh shit, it's yeah, it's really wild. And I remember on last podcast they were following this week to week, and they would like do this really amazing, embarrassing thing of like, oh, this little romantic vacation. And I kind of loved that. They would kind of make it sound like these two boys went on like a love affair road trip.
Yeah.
Because I hope they heard that and I hope they were annoyed. Um,
Just being
but
made fun of, basically. Shamed.
yeah,
I mean, they probably made fun of a lot beforehand, like in their regular life. So,
yeah. What it's just horrible. Yeah, and especially with Chynna and Lucas, well, on Leonard Dyke too. Like they're just really sweet, beloved, innocent people that were just killed by incel boys
assholes.
who were,
Yeah. For no
yeah,
fucking
who were
reason.
just like cosplaying, being a mass shooter or something,
That's
with their
fucked
little
up.
assault rifles and their camo, and it's like, okay,
Yeah. That's fucking shitty, dude. I really don't like
yeah,
know this story. I don't know what the fuck.
that's crazy.
Yeah, how I missed this, but I fucking
It
did.
was
So,
huge news. I guess in 2019 it was
yeah, I don't know.
huge, huge, huge true crime news.
Meow.
Well, there you go. I'm
There
honored
it
that I
is.
could tell you about
Yeah.
it.
That shit's fucking wild.
It really is.
Like I
The road trip aspect of it made it wild too.
Yeah, I vaguely remember like, oh, they were missing, oh, now they're suspects. Like when you were talking about that, I was like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, I kind of remember that. I didn't know they killed themselves. Like I don't know how I missed it, but damn.
Yeah,
Hot damn.
the little walking out of the like store photos are pretty
Yeah,
famous.
yeah.
But yeah, if you look at the map of everywhere they drove and all the different like little dots of like, oh, they were seen on buying this at this gas station here. It's like it's a vast map. It's like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
oh
I
yeah.
just looked it up actually. I was like, holy shit, they really like got they like
Hmm.
they were yeah,
They
wow.
were driving.
They're
Yeah,
going. Yeah. Damn. Well, okay, there we are. We have our first two.
we
We'll
did it.
record the next two soon and get that out for everybody. Thanks, guys, for listening. Sorry we've been a little bit late. You know,
I'm proud of us. We did
we
this.
did it. We made it happen. We did. I'm proud of us too. All right, guys, please like, rate, review, share with your friends and family. And until the second half,
Stay.
off our
Yes.
Step up. Bye.
Bye.